Here's how you can make fresh baguettes at home. Before you start, make sure you've got about 4 to 5 hours free because this is a bit of a lengthy process. First, activate your yeast in 375 grams of warm water and add about 1 tablespoon of flour. After a couple of minutes, you should see small bubbles and a slight foam develop on the surface of the water. If you don't see this, you need to get new yeast. Set that mixture aside and in a large bowl, combine 500 grams or 4 cups of all-purpose or bread flour with 12 grams or 2 teaspoons of salt. Give that a stir, then pour in your activated yeast mixture. Use your hands to mix until all the flour has been hydrated and a loose, sticky dough has formed. It will be quite sticky, so be prepared for that. You don't need to add any more flour. Cover and let rise in a warm place for about 15 minutes. Since the dough has a high hydration level, we can't really knead it like we would with other bread without it either sticking everywhere or adding too much flour. Instead, use wet hands to gently pull and stretch about a quarter of the dough, then fold it back on top. Rotate the bowl and continue this method for each quarter of the dough. Now cover again and let rest for 30 minutes. You'll need to repeat this stretch and fold technique 3 more times, allowing the dough to rest for 30 minutes in between. After the 4th set, you should be able to stretch a portion of the dough thinly enough so it is slightly transparent without tearing. That's how you know the gluten is developed. You're now ready to portion your dough, so transfer to a lightly floured surface and use a bench scraper or a knife to cut the dough in half, then cut each half into thirds, making 6 roughly evenly sized portions of dough. If you'd like to be really precise, you can weigh them, and each portion should be about 150 grams. After dusting each portion with a tiny amount of flour, use your fingertips to press them down and form a rough rectangle. Next, cover with a kitchen towel and allow to rest for another 15 minutes. You really can't rush good bread. All this resting is necessary, so be patient. After the dough has rested, lightly spray a clean working surface and your hands with cooking spray. Press a portion of the dough into as close to a rectangle as you can manage, then fold from the top halfway down and fold again all the way to the bottom. Use your fingertips to press along the seal to close it. Now to create the tapered ends, gently roll, starting with your hands in the center, then move them towards the ends, adding slightly more pressure the closer you get to the end. When you're happy with your shape, transfer to a baking sheet lined with parchment paper and cover and let rest for 1 hour. After about 45 minutes, start preheating your oven to 475 Fahrenheit or 245 Celsius and fill a roasting pan or baking dish with about 1 inch of water. Place the tray on the bottom rack of your oven. This is going to create moisture in the oven, which will actually lead to a crispier crust. Remove the parchment paper and baguettes from the baking tray, then place the tray in the oven to preheat. Meanwhile, spritz the baguettes with warm water, which will also help form that crispy crust. Then lightly dust with flour. Brush most of the flour off, then using a very sharp knife, score 1 long line at about a 45-degree angle across the entire baguette. This is important since it will allow the steam to escape and prevent it from forming tears elsewhere along the bread. Finally, spritz with more water, then place on the now hot baking sheet. The bread should start to cook immediately. Return the tray to the oven for 5 minutes. After 5 minutes, spray with more water. You don't need to remove the pan from the oven like we did. Just open the door and spray to avoid losing heat, then continue baking for another 12 to 15 minutes. Allow the bread to cool completely before slicing. You should be able to press down on the baguette and it should spring right back up. If you enjoyed this tutorial, click on one of these other great bread making videos and subscribe for new videos daily.